And speaking of anything changing, today it was announced that Ron DeSantis has suspended his presidential campaign. Like, no kid. Now we need to start asking some questions. Maybe I have some answers. Don't you think it's a little odd that after Ron DeSantis won second place in Iowa, Nikki fell to the third. After he won second place in the Iowa primary, right after Donald Trump, that he would suspend his presidential campaign right before the GOP primary in New Hampshire, which is this Tuesday. Why would he do that? What would make a second place contender do that? Basically, Ron DeSantis did what we asked Elizabeth Warren to do, but she wouldn't do it. She stayed in on Super Tuesday, knowing damn well at that point in time, she had no path to the presidency, knowing damn well that race was between two people, Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden at that point in time. And she stayed in on Super Tuesday on purpose to split votes between her and Bernie Sanders. So Ron DeSantis basically did what we asked Elizabeth Warren to do. Why would Ron DeSantis do that? I believe that Ron DeSantis made a deal with Donald Trump. I believe that Donald Trump reached out to Ron DeSantis and say, hey, Ron, you got second place. We already heard him say he didn't want Nikki Haley as a vice president. And we don't know for sure that he's picking Ron DeSantis for vice president, but he could have offered him something else. How would you like to be a part of my administration in some way, shape, or form if you go ahead and drop out now? And then there's this question. Where are Ron DeSantis supporters going to turn to? Are they more likely to vote for Donald Trump this Tuesday, or are they more likely to vote for Nikki Haley? I would say they're probably more likely to vote for Donald Trump, but we'll have to see. So I know we shared this at the very beginning as some type of opening. We are going back again, everyone again, once again. Breaking news. Ron DeSantis has suspended his presidential campaign. Let's dive in.
And his family, that it was the end of the road for him in this particular race, and he is suspending his campaign, Frederica.
Well, Dana, it's still really remarkable because we're talking about the timing of it all. Why now? 2 days ahead of the New Hampshire contest. Oh, wait a minute. We've got that video now in that we want to share with everybody that you were making reference to. Dana, let's watch and listen.
Reminds me why I decided to run for president, to fight for those who have been forgotten in this country. This is America's time for choosing. We can choose to allow a border invasion, or we can choose to stop it. We can choose reckless borrowing and spending, or we can choose to limit government and lower inflation. We can choose political indoctrination, or we can choose classical education. These choices are symptoms of the underlying struggle to ensure that constitutional government can endure and that Western civilization can survive. And we launched this campaign to bring accountability to government, regain sovereignty at our border, and restore sanity to our society. We cannot succeed as a country if we allow our nation to be invaded, our currency to be debased, our cities to crumble, and our kids to be indoctrinated. The DC elites who facilitated this mess do not care about you, and they do not work for you. They work for themselves. They seek to accumulate power at your expense to pursue an agenda that is harmful to the American people.
What was really interesting is when he mentioned the DC elites as if he's not elite himself. Like, it was just really weird. I'm like, dude, like, stop trying to pretend like you're like this working class hero. You're not. Ron DeSantis went to Yale, correct? Like, he's not a working class hero. They kill me with that.
Citizens do not serve politicians. It is the duty of politicians to serve you. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Reversing the decline of this nation requires leadership that delivers big results for the people we are elected to serve. I have a record of leading with conviction, championing an agenda marked by bold colors, delivering on my promises, and defeating the people who are responsible for our nation's decline. That is the type of leadership we need for all of America. Now, over the past many months, Casey and I have traveled across the country to deliver a message of hope that decline is a choice and that we can, in fact, succeed again as a nation. Nobody worked harder, and we left it all out on the field. Now, following our second place finish in Iowa, we've prayed and deliberated on the way forward. If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But
Does that include personality? Because Ron DeSantis this dude has no personality. None. It's like, and you can tell, like, even like during times, like in interviews, you can also tell during the debates, he just looks very uncomfortable. He obviously not the most social person out there, but dude has no personality, like zero, And that's one of the reasons why I think his campaign has had some of the struggles that it's had. That and the fact that dude was running on culture war and not on the economy. He was so focused on, we're going to talk about this about trans people and this about Disneyland and the books and banning the books and yada, yada. I'm just like, dude, do you realize like people are struggling to put food on the table right now? Do you realize this country is going through an inflation? Do you realize people are tired of these damn wars and our money going towards like all the money the government is putting in the defense budget instead of putting it in the hands of the American people? And that's what you chose to run on? Couldn't have been more tone deaf, in my opinion.
Can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him.
Don't you guys think it's strange that people who are, so for example, Nikki Haley was in third place in Iowa, Ron DeSantis was in second place. You would expect the lower ranked candidate to be the one to drop out if they're going to drop out at this point in time. But instead, second place drops out. And that's why I believe Donald Trump offered him something. Probably not VP, but I think he offered him something, some type of position. Hey, if I win, I think you would be great at this position in my administration. Because like I said, if you got second place, why would you drop out before New Hampshire? There's just been one state, right?
I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge. He has my endorsement because we can't go back to the old Republican guard of yesteryear, a repackaged form of warmed over corporatism that Nikki Haley represents.
But it's interesting, like, yes, Nikki Haley represents corporatism, but so does Ron DeSantis. Like, he talks about these things, the corporatism, the elites, as if he's not a part of that. He represents corporatism too. He has corporate donors too. So he's talking about this as though he's ran some grassroots campaign. He did not. He did not. This just drives me crazy. It's wild.
The days of putting Americans last, of kowtowing to large corporations, of caving to woke ideology are over. I thank all of our passionate supporters who've stood by us through it all. That we had people volunteer to come to Iowa in the middle of a blizzard to knock on doors and make phone calls touched us dearly. No candidate had more thrown at him, but no candidate had so many committed volunteers and staff. Finally, I want to thank my wife, Casey, and our kids, Madison, Mason, and Mamie. Casey's gone far above and beyond in her support for our campaign and for our cause. She's not only a great wife and mother, she's a great American who cares deeply about the future of the country that our kids will inherit. Our kids have seen and done a lot on the trail, from playing on the famed Field of Dreams baseball site in Iowa to making their first snowman in New Hampshire. They are one of the reasons we fight so hard for what we believe in. Winston Churchill once remarked that success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. While this campaign has ended, the mission continues. Down here in Florida, we will continue to show the country how to lead. Thank you and God bless.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if Florida's been showing the country how to lead, considering that the abortion law in Florida, I don't think the rest of the country is on board with that. I don't think the rest of the country is on board with censorship either. So I don't know about that, Ron, but he's out. And I did not expect this news to come my way today. Did not expect it. Didn't even have this lined up as a story. Eric contacted me like right before I went live and was like, I was like, what?
All right, so if you're just now joining us, that is a video where Florida Governor Ron DeSantis now announces that he is suspending his campaign for the GOP nomination in his path to the White House. He says, we don't have a clear path, but at the same time, he also said Trump is superior to President Biden. So clearly he's throwing his support behind Trump, who in every indication through so much polling that he is still the leading figure in the race for the nomination of the GOP. And so just a couple days ago, you heard Nikki Haley saying it's a two-person race, and so it is now. Dana Bash back with us now. So we're hearing with some clarity there from Ron DeSantis that he's out. He had some real criticism for government still works for itself, not for you. Yet even with that criticism of government, he is no longer on the path to try to promote some sort of change with him in the White House. But, you know, it's still curious as to why he made this decision now when immediately, even after a poor showing in Iowa, he goes to South Carolina, and then he comes to New Hampshire today for at least one campaign event, canceling on television appearances, and now has this very constructed television announcement that he has suspended the campaign. So
because
what happened in between all of this?
Because he was offered something. It's very obvious. It's really interesting to me the way that they have these discussions as if they've never talked about this before. These people have been doing this for years. It's like, it's very obvious that he was offered something. Drop out. Just like, remember when Beto, when all of in the Democrat primary 2020, remember when Beto dropped out and then, you know, Pete dropped out after South Carolina. Actually, I think Beto dropped out before South Carolina. But remember, like, Pete dropped out after South Carolina. Amy Klobuchar dropped out. Was Tom Steyer still in? I think he dropped out too after South Carolina. Anyway, notice how they all kind of like, again, I believe there were some calls that were made, just like Obama made some calls in 2020. I believe there were some calls made this time around, and Ron DeSantis was basically convinced, listen, if you drop out now, we'll help you do this. Now, here's the real question. Where are Ron DeSantis supporters going to go? I want to hear from you guys in the chat. I should have created a poll for this. Darn it. Where are his supporters going to go? Do you feel his supporters are more likely to now in turn vote for Nikki Haley, or are they going to vote for Donald Trump? Because if his supporters go towards Donald Trump, it's a wrap for Nikki. Like, it's a riggedy wrap. I'm just keeping it real. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Rondo says Trump. Dog Main said they are going to Trump. Miguel says Trump. Miss Pamela says Trump. Adam says Libertarian Party. That's interesting. Saul says Trump. Jay Thomas to Trump. Bad Cookie says his supporters will go with the flow and support Trump. Wow. Robbie says Trump. Yeah. So most people are saying Trump. I don't think anyone said Nikki. Did anyone say? No. I didn't see. Who the hell is a Ron DeSantis voter? I've never met one. That's really interesting, though. I've never met one. But I also live in Massachusetts, so just keep that in mind. Emily said that Nikki is dropping because Phillips is surging in New Hampshire. Dean Phillips, that one is such a bizarre one to me. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it is what it is. And Ron DeSantis has officially suspended his presidential campaign. So how's that for a bit of news for you?